Hey guys, so today we're going to be covering targeting. So targeting is a really important part of running successful Facebook ads. In fact, it can make or break your campaigns. So getting this right and understanding what's available to you, the tools that are available to you, and then how to properly use these amazing capabilities at your fingertip is really important in terms of being an effective and efficient Facebook advertiser. This is also the part that trips up the most people. So it's probably one of the biggest questions myself and the team get asked all the time is, can you please review the targeting? Am I doing this right? How do I make this better? So what I'm going to be covering with you today is the different types of targeting that are available to us. And then in today's video, in this specific video right here, we're going to go over interest, behavior, and demographic targeting. I'm going to show you the options that you have there, and then a couple hacks that you have in terms of finding the best way to build what we call a cold audience. Okay, so before we kick into that, I want to quickly recap with you what this targeting section really encompasses and the options that you have. So when you are targeting with Facebook, you essentially have cold targeting options, which basically means you're targeting an audience who has never heard of you before and never interacted with you before. And so that is using Facebook's interests, behavior, demographic targeting, and it is also using lookalike audiences. Those are what we would also consider a cold audience. And then following that, you have the option to create what we call custom audiences. Now, custom audiences are people that have interacted with you in some shape or form. Perhaps it's that they visited the website or they visited a specific page on the website. Perhaps it's that they're on your email list. Perhaps it's that they completed some form of action. So they opted into a lead form, or they watched one of your videos, for example. So it is someone that has interacted with you before. Now, we're not going to go into custom audiences in this specific video. What we're going to look at in this specific video is cold audiences. So interest, behavioral, and demographic, as well as location-based. And then we're going to also quickly have a look at lookalikes, but there's also a separate video for that. All right, so as you can see, I'm in a dummy account right now, and what I'm going to show you is how to essentially navigate targeting and understand how to use it properly. So I'm going to create a dummy campaign so that I can take you through to the ad set level. So targeting happens at the ad set level, this one here, right? And just a really brief recap for those of you where this is sort of brand new for you. Essentially what we have here is the locations, the custom audiences tab. So if you are going to use a custom audience, so people that have purchased from you, for example, this is where you'd punch it in. And then you have the location, so where are they at in the world, which cities, the age, the gender, the language, and the interest, demographic, and behavioral targeting. We also have the option to target connections. So let's go through each one of these, and I will explain to you best practice for each one of these different components when it comes to targeting. Now, when we go into custom audiences, even if you are targeting a cold audience, so people that have never interacted with you before, so this is top of funnel stuff, what you will generally do is have exclusions of the people you don't want to show this ad to. Here's what I mean by that. Let's say you're trying to generate leads for an insurance broker, and you want people to opt in and fill out a form and get in touch with this specific client. And so essentially your ad is going to a cold audience, and whether that ad is a video and then you're retargeting them with the conversion ad to fill in the form, whatever that might be, is you are targeting this cold audience to at the top of your funnel to essentially get people to fill out a form. Now, what you want to make sure here is that you actually exclude the people that already filled out this form, right? Because they don't need to see this ad. They've already completed that action. So even though you might be targeting a cold audience at the top of the funnel, you're still probably going to use the custom audience tab for exclusion purposes. So I'll give you an example of how that might work. I don't think we actually have any custom audiences, but essentially what you would do is you'd select the custom audience here. So once you've built one, and then you would just select exclude, or you could just click on here and punch it in from here and exclude it. So that's the first thing to understand. Now over here we have locations. So the default is everyone in this location. And so for example, here we're targeting the US. You can target by cities. You can also exclude people from certain areas. So for example, if you're targeting the US but you want to exclude Georgia as a state, or you want to exclude California, you can do that as well. You also have the option to target people who live in this location. And this is different in the sense that everyone in this location, Facebook is essentially always tracking where you're at, right? So this would include people that are traveling and people that are living there. So if you're just trying to target people in the US, let's say you're a cafe and you don't really care if they're traveling roundabout or you have an event happening or people living, then you might use this. If you want people that live in this location, then you'll select this. We don't find much of a difference between these two, but just so you understand, that is the difference. And then people traveling in this location. So this is a really cool one. Facebook knows when you're traveling, not because you've necessarily updated your status that you're at the airport or you're about to travel, but because it's reading your emails and it knows when you've booked a flight somewhere. So this is really trippy stuff, right? This is in Facebook's terms of service. So Facebook knows when you've booked a flight to somewhere. It knows when you're traveling in a certain location. So that's locations and how to use it. Now you have the age as well. And obviously, this is going to be based on your specific audience, and you'll segment that however the client tells you who they're targeting. And then you've got the genders. Some marketers like to split test between men and women, which is a good option. And if you want to scale a campaign, for example, an easy option you have is to split test your ad sets between men and women to quickly scale that campaign. But generally, if there's no specific segmentation, you can bulk them together and Facebook will optimize the one that works best. Just keep a close eye on it in the reporting. Now, quickly, I just forgot to mention this. The bulk locations is where you can add a lot of different locations at once without having to manually input it. So this is really a copy and paste file where you can, or a copy and paste job where you can have, let's say, lots and lots of different locations that you want to target, and you've got that pre-saved somewhere. So that is also an option. Now, languages, we don't tend to use this at all, especially if you're targeting United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, England, UK, for example, because it will just drive up the cost of your ads. However, if you are targeting a city like France and your ad is in English, you may decide to use English here. Just understand that using this language function tends to always result in more expensive ads. And then here's where we get to the really juicy stuff, the interest, behavior, and demographic targeting. So here's what's available to you guys. So let's look at demographics first and see some of the different possibilities. Now, I'm not going to run through every single one of these because there's a lot here, and this is always changing as well. But just so you understand, depending on where you're at in the world, this will be really, really fleshed out, or it will be a little bit more limited. So for example, in New Zealand, we cannot target home owners. There's just not enough data. Facebook doesn't have the big data companies supplying them with that information. But in the US, you can actually target people that own their own homes, or they have a mortgage. You can target based on that. So let's have a look at demographics really, really quickly. Obviously, you've got education, so this is college degrees, all of that good stuff. Again, if you're in the US, this could work really well, but somewhere in New Zealand, it's just going to really limit your ads. It's not going to work very well. This one, Facebook has gotten in a lot of flack for, ethnic affinity, because people were saying it's a bit discriminatory, but essentially, you can target people by their race, right? And understand that as well. Now, look, this is all US as well. So again, depending on where you're at in the world or who you're targeting in the world, you'll be limited here. Generation, now this is based off their age as well. Their home, so their household composition. Are they housemate? I've never seen that one. I'm not sure what this one is. We'll have to go back to this one. But family-based households, or I guess this is more like flatting, right? Life events. Now this one's pretty cool. So you can do things like birthdays. You can target people that are having upcoming birthdays. So imagine creating an ad saying, hey, why don't you treat yourself for your birthday? Or hey, happy birthday. Here's a special discount. Now, be careful when you're creating those types of ads that you don't try to personalize it too much. You want to personalize it, but Facebook doesn't like it when you try to personalize it too much. So if you're using this type of targeting, you don't want to say, happy birthday, here's a discount for you. You want to say, happy birthday, here's a special discount. So you're not associated with you. Otherwise, your ad might get rejected. And you can also target the friends of people that are having a special event. So friends of people that are newly engaged or having a birthday, So here's friends of people that are newly engaged, friends of people that are just married. So again, you can target ads saying, need a gift for an upcoming wedding or need a gift for an upcoming birthday. How cool is that, right? You can target based on relationships. So let's say you're targeting baby photography, or you're working with a baby photographer. Now this would be a really cool one. So people that are engaged or newlyweds, they're probably about to have a baby, right? So they're probably already pregnant or they're thinking about that. Now that would be a cool way to target for a photographer that works with baby photography. Likewise, a wedding photographer, newly engaged is what you could use here. And then recently moved. And then we can go down all the way into parents, politics, relationship. Are they single? If you're working with a love coach, this is a good one to use. We've used this one, and it was quite effective. If you're working with an insurance broker who does family trusts or wills, you could look at someone who's just gotten married again or widowed. And then work, these are their job titles. So job titles is one that can lead to very, very good targeting. It is also a little bit difficult as well because Facebook is not LinkedIn, right? So a lot of people don't update their job titles. The only people that tend to consistently update their job titles on Facebook are entrepreneurs and business owners because they obviously want to use their profiles as a marketing platform for their own businesses and ventures. So those, if you're targeting entrepreneurs, founders, that type of stuff, it might work, but just understand that Facebook is not like LinkedIn. People do not update their job titles that much. Lawyers and doctors would, so that might be a great way to target them, but just bear in mind who you're going after here and that this is not LinkedIn. And then interests. So here's what most people are using. So interest is when you're going in here and you're going snorkeling, for example, is interested in snorkeling, is interested in business. Now, here's what you need to understand about interest targeting. This is really, really important, guys. Facebook targets interest targeting based on content, any content that that person engaged with, whether or not it was in a positive way or a negative way. So let's say, for example, you go in and punch in business as interest targeting. And so you're going, I'm going to target business owners. Well, the reality is that this targeting means it's going to show your ads to anyone that has ever engaged or interacted with content revolving around business. And that could be someone saying, I just launched my new business, it's so exciting, and then someone liking that post. That would start to target them, even though they're not a business owner. All they did was like their cousin's post about their business. Right? So you have to be really, really careful about this. This happens a lot in people trying to target business, or for example, if you're trying to target rich people, you might go in here and go, well, let me target Rolex because rich people own Rolexes. Well, the reality is there's a lot of people on the internet, on Facebook, that have interacted with content around a Rolex. For example, I wish I had a Rolex, or they're a fan of the Rolex fan page, when in reality, they'll never be able to afford one. So you have to be really, really careful about how you use interest targeting. What you want to think about here is, to get really, really specific, is think about what are the things that only my audience would know about. So here's an example. Let's say you're targeting marketers, or in particular, digital marketers. Let's say that's your audience. What is something that digital marketers know about that no one else really knows about? And so you can think of conferences or tools or publications or events, anything like that. So for example, Hootsuite, right? Only a digital marketer would really know about Hootsuite, or only an entrepreneur would really know about Hootsuite. If you look at this is still a very big audience size, right? It might be HubSpot, MailChimp. You'll see Facebook gives you some suggestions. Be careful about accepting all of them when you're building up your audience. But for example, GetResponse. Only people in the online marketing space would really know about these tools. So, just these three, it's a pretty decent sized audience in the US already, right? So think about, what are the events, what are the publications, social media conference, or social media Examiner, for example, social media examiner. So social media marketers, they would know what this is. No one else would really interact with content around this. So think about that and get really creative with it. Another great way to use interest targeting is to target big coaches or influencers in the space that share your audience. So, for example, what's really, really common nowadays targeting coaches and consultants is going after Marie Forleo. There she is. I'm just going to remove all of these guys. And Frank Kern, for example, he helps people build themselves as entrepreneurs. So if you're trying to target entrepreneurs that are looking to build funnels, or they're trying to do their own thing, or they're just about to launch, these are great people to target. There you go. Just in the States, we've got an audience of 1.7 million people. Now, just on this, at the top of your funnel with a cold audience, this can really, really vary in terms of results. What the size of audience we tend to want to work with is usually an audience size of around 500,000 to $1 million if you're spending around $20 to $100 a day. But here's what I will say. We have seen tremendous success from very small and specific audiences of, for example, 1,700. It does work. Just understand that you will get burnout a lot quicker, and you can't scale that one as much. So if you spent $100 a day on a 17,000 audience size, you're going to burn through that audience within a month really, really quickly, and the cost of your ads is going to go up. So anytime you start seeing the cost of your ads go up, usually that's a red flag that you're starting to burn out your audience and your audience size is just not big enough. Okay, so test this out, but usually we like to work between 500,000, 800,000 to 1 million or even 2 million people. So this would be a great audience size. Now here's where to get some inspiration. If you don't know how to even find out if you should be using Frank Kern or Marie Forleo or what pages or what tools, well, one of the hacks that you can do is go to one of the pages. So let's go to Marie Forleo. So let's go to Marie Forleo. And what you want to do is under about, I need to unlike, I've already done this hack for her. So let's unlike. I'm just going to refresh this screen. So you've come to, the page that you think you should be targeting. So think of a competitor. Let's say Quicksilver is a competitor. You could go to Quicksilver's Facebook page, and then you'll go under about. Oh, wrong one. We'll go to about, and you'll go like. And what Facebook is going to do is it's going to give you recommendations for other pages that you can try targeting. So if we go in here, Chris Carr was one of them. Did I spell her name wrong? I feel like I did. There she is. Boom. Now, be careful. Danielle Laporte, that might be a great one. Tony Robbins, be careful about the really big guys like Tony Robbins and Oprah. These guys are so big that just too many people like them, right? A lot of non-entrepreneurs like these guys because Tony Robbins helps a lot of people, not just entrepreneurs. So you got to be careful when you use broad targeting like this. But, I mean, there's lots of different ideas here. Amy Porterfield, Kate Northup. Now, not everyone is going to show up. Lewis Howes would be a great one. And you can even go into, for example, Kimra Luna doesn't show up yet. I guess that's a sign of success, right? When you show up in the interest targeting. Gary Vaynerchuk, he might be okay. He's possibly a bit too big. There's a lot of people that are not entrepreneurs that still follow him because he does do a lot of, social media marketing stuff. So you get a lot of social media marketers following him. But this is a way to get some ideas, some tips. So let's have a look at Quicksilver really quickly. Maybe not. Roxy, maybe? There we go. Let's try this one. So let's say that was a competitor. What you could even do is try to target your competitors. So you could go in here and go, well, Roxy is a competitor. There you go. And then Billabong, and you can even target competitors' pages. If we go back in here, Facebook will give us other ideas. As you can see here, Alyssa Quizone, Sally Fitzgibbons, 700, she should show up. Normally it takes 50, what we tend to see is the pages that will show up have around 50K plus, but even then that's really glitchy. They might not show up under interest targeting. But check this out. This is a really good way to see. Now, if you don't even know which competitors to target or how to, which pages to even look at. So if this is like a complete unknown for you and you have no idea who are the competitors, who are the influencers, who are the pages that you can do this hack with, well, there's actually another hack that I want to show you. Okay, so let's say that this is actually your Facebook page. Actually, let's find a real estate agent. Does this guy exist? Oh, okay, Tom Wong. We're going to use you as an example. So let's say this is your client and you need to find out who he shares similar interests, pages that have similar interests as him. Well, what you'll do is you'll right click and you'll go view page source, I'm on a Mac right now, so what I'm going to do might not apply to a MacBook. You can still view the page source on a Windows, sorry. But in terms of what I'm about to do next, this might be different. But what I'm going to do is Control F, Command F, and I'm going to look for page_ID. So I don't know how you'd bring this up in Windows, but essentially you're trying to search the page. And we're trying to find this little number here, the page ID. Okay, now we're going to copy this, and we're going to go to this link right here. And this is posted in the video below. So it's facebook.com/pages/?from page ID equals ID. What we're going to do is we're going to delete ID. And we're going to paste in this ID. And what you're going to see here is pages similar to that page, or pages that share similar interests. So my funnel team. Now, again, just have a look at how many people like the page, because obviously this is never going to show up in interest targeting. Rascal the Cat. Tony Robbins might be too broad again here, but Scotia Bank, I mean, I don't know. Is that an idea that you could use? Burson Canada, Quaker, Robin Hood Baking Family, Brita Canada. I mean, so this could give you some ideas from which to start leveraging and then having a look. So going under, let's say you're saying Brita Canada is a good one. You could just then use the other hack where you're going in this page and you're going to see what other pages share the interest. So there you go. HTC, Swak Banks, The Awkward Moment, Nicorette, The Energizer Bunny. So this could start to give you those ideas on how to target that competitors, influencers, pages with similar interests to start filling this out. Now, if you're just getting started out with a client, this is what you want to do. If they've never done Facebook ads before and they don't have a pixel on their website, they don't have an email list that you can upload as a lookalike, this is where you need to start off with, right? You have to start interest or behavioral demographic type targeting. So these are some ideas and some hacks to get you going here. Now, another hack that I really quickly want to show you before I move on to behavioral targeting is the Axiom hat. So let's have a look at that. So you've got access to the link to this little training, and there's also this video in the membership area. But essentially, what you want to do is go to this link here. Now, this is Facebook's data company. This is really powerful stuff. You can get them to build the targeting for you. So you basically go to this link, and it says, do you need data recommendations? And you fill out the information, who you're trying to target, and you just ask them. Now, here's a couple things to note about this. We have heard many different experiences across the board. It's not guaranteed that they will reply to you, okay? We've also heard that they have replied to a couple people occasionally and asked for money. So I think it was $75 to set up the targeting. Now, if that's worth it to you, I would highly recommend you go ahead with this, because we've tried these guys before, especially with client we were really struggling with, and the targeting that they set up for us was gold. It just started to make the campaign purr like a kitten. So if you need help with targeting, head to this link here, that again, it's below the video, and essentially you just fill this out and you ask them to give you some recommendations. Most of the time these guys come back, it's totally free, and oftentimes they will set it up for you in the ad account. This is crazy stuff, right? So if you're struggling for ideas, or if you have a client where the targeting at the top of the funnel really isn't working, try this hack out. I highly recommend it. Okay, let's finally go through behaviors and more categories, and then we'll go through connections and lookalikes. So under behaviors, this is really how a consumer is behaving online. So what we can look at targeting, for example, under digital activities. Let's say you're targeting small business owners. Well, most small business owners are the page admin of their own pages. So you could go in here and go, I'm going to target Facebook page admins. because most small business owners are a Facebook page admin, right? So that could be a really, really great hack. We use this one quite a bit. I'm going to clear this one out and go back into behaviors, and I'll quickly go through one of the other things. So you've got travel. Are they frequent business travelers? Are they commuters? Are you trying to target the 9-to-5 community? We've tried this one with moderate success, but it could be very, very different for you. So give it a go. And then under more categories, this is actually where Axiom would save the hack for you. You would see Axiom under here if you got in touch with them. I mean, there's not much here, right? So have a play around, get really creative, and what I want you guys to think about is what are the things that only this audience will know. Drill down, get in touch with Axiom, start stalking competitor pages, try to target competitors, try to target influencers, try to target the tools that they use, the publications that they read, the events that they go to. Stay away from really broad terms like business or broad people like Oprah. Just stay away from really broad things where a lot of people might be engaging with that type of term or content or that person. All right, now let's look at connection. This is where you can target people that are connected to your Facebook page, your app, or events that you've created in the past. The most common one is Facebook pages, so people who like your Facebook page, and you can also target friends of people who like your page. Now, what you want to be careful with here is that ensuring that your client or your own brand has built a high-quality Facebook audience. So there has been a couple hacks out there where you will target third world countries to get lots of cheap likes. Obviously, if that was what happened, you don't want to use this, right? This is not going to be the audience you want to target. So just be aware, make sure it's a high quality audience that you are targeting. If you're not sure, you could actually layer this on with the US. So you go people who like the page and make sure you have United States selected in here. And then you'd select your page from here. And you can also exclude people who like your page. So that might be considered a warm audience, right? People who like your page. So if you're trying to go cold, 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 bring some fresh blood into the business, then you might want to exclude them. And then the last feature that I want to show you here is saving the audience. So if you are, if you're building an audience and you've got lots of interest targeting in here, lots of different locations, and it's a solid audience and you want to use it again, I would recommend that you save this and you just give it a name, and you can always use this without having to rebuild it later on. And the way that you would do that is you just go up here, and here's where you'd select the saved audiences. They would show up in a drop down here. Obviously, we don't have any for this account. So this is how to use interest targeting, behavior targeting, and demographic targeting effectively. Now, one of the big things that we're seeing is highly successful right now is when we layer interest targeting with lookalikes. Now, a lookalike is essentially Facebook building an audience similar to an existing custom audience. Again, just a reminder, a custom audience is people that have engaged or interacted with your client or the brand before. So it could be an email list. So let's have a quick look at that. I'm going to exit out of here. Actually, I don't even need to do that. I'm going to go straight into audiences up here. And this is where you're going to build your lookalikes. This is obviously a dummy account, so we don't have any custom audiences. But what you'd essentially do is, and watch the custom audience training video, is you'd create your custom audience. And then once that's built, you'd go create a lookalike audience. You'd select the custom audience. And this could be a page as well. It could be a Facebook page. It doesn't have to be an uploaded email file. It doesn't have to be a standard event or anything like that. And the country, unfortunately at the moment, we still are only able to target by one country at a time. So you can only create lookalike USA, lookalike Australia, lookalike Canada. You have to create separate ones for each one. And you can say how big or how small, and it will show you the size of your lookalike based on that. We tend to stick it around 1%. If the base audience is less than 1,000 people, What I would recommend is that you always layer that with interest or behavioral targeting to make it a really high quality lookalike. If the base audience is over 1,000, you can get away with just using the lookalike in your targeting. So let's just go back to Ads Manager, and I'm going to show you where you'd punch in that lookalike. You'd select the lookalike from the custom audience just over here, and it would show up here, the one you've built. And then you could layer on your interest targeting, depending on how big of an audience you want in here as well. So that is essentially how to build a cold top of funnel audience. Let's go have a look at building custom audiences.